Welcome back to my second Zoom series episode of After the Play Ends, Hanging the Cleats Up. And this is the series where I, Anya Olson, get to talk to retired athletes and pick their brain on their struggles and their transition of not playing their collegiate sport anymore. And I am super excited to be here today with my second guest, Gabby Lotter. And I actually played college soccer with her for 3 seasons at Piedmont, so we're very familiar with each other. We both went to the same school, played with each other a lot. So I'm really excited to talk to her about her college experience and hopefully give some advice to you guys. Gabby, you have the floor. Go ahead and tell us how you got into your sport.
Thanks for having me, Anya. I got into my sport from a very young age. My dad played soccer growing up, so we were a soccer family. My brother, sister, and I, we all played soccer. So I was playing since I was probably 5 years old. And then, yeah, I just fell in love with it from a young age. And so started playing club ball when I was probably in sixth grade. And then from there went on, played high school and got recruited to go to Piedmont. So
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. It's really interesting because my last Zoom guest too, he started playing soccer with his siblings. So I think it's so fun to just like talk to, because I never got to play a sport with my siblings. So I think it's fun to get that perspective of my guests and their growing relationships and their family with their sport. But that leads me into your college experience and how you got to playing at Piedmont and why you chose Piedmont.
So I chose Piedmont when I was in high school. My club teammates we would all go to different like college recruit camps and just kind of try to get looked at as many schools as we could. And I remember my dad said to me one day, "Hey, like some of your teammates are going up to that Piedmont ID camp. I think it'd be a really good idea if you joined." And the first thing I said was, "Well, what division are they?" And he said, "B." And I said, "Not going." And
Same.
yeah, and he convinced me to go. He's like, "Come on, like it'll be good practice, even if you don't like the school. Like it'll just be good to just get, talk to the coaches, whatever." So I was like, "Fine." So I went, and all the other ID camps for like colleges that I had been to never really quite felt right. Like I was like, either the coach was like, too busy talking and like not really paying attention to the recruits, or just something like that would happen, or I wasn't playing in the right position and I just played terrible because it wasn't my position, or I just never worked out. And so then I went to Piedmont and it was like everything just clicked and I played amazing. Like the coaches actually like really took the time to get to know you, and like that was like, when the coaches pulled me to the side in the middle of the game, they're like, "Hey, we're really interested in you." And I was like, whoa, like I had never had that before. And so then after like looking at the school a little more, I just really fell in love with it. And that's why I chose Piedmont.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite things to tell people too, because I have a very similar story as well of why I chose Piedmont. It just feels like a family, and everyone who goes to Piedmont says the exact same thing. So, for any athletes listening, please choose a school that you feel comfortable at. You'll know immediately. That's something I always try to tell high schoolers for advice. But that kind of shifts me into our topic, obviously, because my Zoom series hopefully is to be used as a resource for maybe high school athletes, maybe other athletes who are just struggling with their transition out of their sport, whether that's in high school or college. So, Gabby, I know you had to tackle one of the hardest things an athlete has to go through. And so I wanted to talk about your injury and kind of how that affected you and your college career.
So yeah, I've had a lot of injuries over my college career. I've had a total of 4 surgeries now. Hopefully, no more.
No more.
But I'll probably have to get a knee replacement at one day at this
That's
point.
what that's what our athletic trainer always says. He's like, you guys are gonna have like 5 knee replacements by the time you're 50. So
Yeah,
it's
but
comforting.
yeah, sure. But my senior year of high school, thankfully, I had already committed to Piedmont at this point. But it was like one of the last like regular season games of high school, like in the spring, and I tore my ACL and my meniscus. So I ended up having to get surgery the summer going into freshman year of college, which meant I had to redshirt my entire freshman year. So that was just kind of hard because just starting college, not really knowing anyone. But when you're on a team, it just makes that transition so much easier because you're automatically just like have the 20 built-in best friends or
Mhm.
however many. So it was nice getting to be a part of a team, but I also didn't feel like I was completely a part of the team because I wasn't allowed to travel. Like injured players didn't get to travel. So I was left behind a lot on the weekends, which was hard because all my roommates would get to travel on these trips, and
Mhm.
I would end up going home pretty much every weekend because I just didn't want to be at school by myself. But yeah, and then let's see, my junior year, I had two more knee surgeries for my meniscus. I retore it twice. And then mm, that ended up leading into a whole nother thing because I found out I tore my hip labrum. And so then yeah, at that point I just
You
that's
cannot
a
catch a
lot.
break, Gabby.
Yeah. So at that point I just kind of made the decision to kind of end my career a little early because it was just getting to be a lot on my body physically and mentally.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Something that I also brought up in my last episode with my last guest, that you can check out on YouTube actually, was we talked about how he ended his career in high school and he knew exactly when his last game would be at 18, and that he wouldn't get to continue playing. And for me, like, I knew my last game was going to be in college. I had known my whole career that when I'm a senior in college, I'll play my last game. But how did you feel going in? Well, you didn't know when your last game was going to be. So how is saying goodbye so much harder?
um, yeah, like you said, like you go in with this
Not sure
mentality.
I understand. Not my watch. Continue. She interrupted us.
She's part of this call too. Um, no, part of yeah, I guess like you were saying, when you go into it, like okay, at the end of this 4 years,
Yeah.
it's gonna be done. And so, kind of going into that, part of the reason I also chose Piedmont was for their athletic training program, which was the 3-2 graduate program. So, once I found out I tore my ACL, I was like, oh, well, that's okay because I'm gonna be at Piedmont 5 years anyway, so I'm still gonna get a full 4 years. So in
Hmm.
my I was like, that's perfect. It all works out. Like, no big deal. And so I kind of always had in my head, I would still have that extra year. And then once I like kept getting hurt and I realized that's probably not going to happen, even though I really wanted it to. But I think that was just hard because it's like you have this expectation and then reality is completely different. And it's just hard to like get over that because you've had that in your mind for so long. But thankfully for me, like mine was a little different because it's not like mine was more of like just injuries I was playing through all season that I really shouldn't have been playing through, but like it wasn't like one specific instance like when someone tears their ACL and they're just out and that's
Yeah.
so thankfully I had a little bit more time to like mentally prepare. I was like, okay, my body cannot keep doing this. And then I just made the decision. I was like, I think I'm just gonna play my last game on senior night because it's getting to be too much. So at least in my mind, I kind of was able to prepare a little bit more,
Yeah.
but still it was a lot of having to let go of my expectations that I was gonna get that fifth year, which was hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
So what advice would you give to any athletes going through similar things? Maybe they've just had an injury or maybe they're deciding like, whoa, I can't do this anymore. Anything like that. What would you say to them based on your experience?
I would say that, as tough as it is to hear, like everyone ends their career at some point, whether that's from injury or just from reaching your last game of your senior year.
Yeah.
It's end for everyone at some point. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow because I think in my little 18-year-old mind, I thought my body was invincible and I was going to get to play
Mhm.
forever and go professional and do all these things. And it ends, even for professionals, it ends at some point. And so, like, you're going to have to tackle that at some point, no
Yeah,
matter from an injury or just from getting old. But I think for like if I were to give advice, I would say just enjoy every moment while you can because
yeah.
it does fly so fast. And I know that's kind of cliche because I feel like everyone always says that, but like truly, even like I know for me, like coming back from an injury, it was really tough, obviously physically, but also like mentally because I'm really hard on myself. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so like coming back and like your body's not necessarily working the way it used to, and that's really frustrating. And it's really easy to like let that affect your practice or your game.
Mhm.
And I think just like even though it sucks and even though it's frustrating, like just be happy with the fact that you're like back out on the field. Like I'm an athletic trainer and I was just telling one of my athletes that the other day. It was his first time getting to pitch to live batters in like over a year because he had surgery. And I was just telling him like, look, it's not gonna be pretty. I can
Mhm.
promise you it's not gonna be good, but just go out there and enjoy it because it's been a whole year since since you've gone to throw, and that's something you should be proud of. And just
Yeah. Yeah, not that this is as similar, but I remember our first game back after COVID, and we
Mhm.
were so excited. And it'd been like a year, maybe I think a year since we'd played, maybe a little bit more, but we were all like buzzing. Like the bus was so fun. We were all just like having so much fun. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like we didn't put any pressure on ourselves. We were just so excited to be out there. So I love that advice. And just I know athletes just can be so tough on themselves. So just take it with a
Mhm.
grain of salt and get the best out of it. I love that. Um, and now that you mentioned you're an athletic trainer, I'd love to transition to that and how being an athletic trainer has allowed you to stay close to the sport and to stay involved with the community.
Yeah. So I think for me, like, yeah, obviously it was really tough having to say goodbye to my sport, and I still really miss playing soccer a lot. But I think it's been a little bit easier for me, like the transition, because I'm still around sports all the time for work. So, still getting to feel like I'm a part of a team and everything like that makes it a little bit easier, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I know we were chatting the other day and you had mentioned saying like you didn't know how much you really miss soccer too until you were there again and like playing again and in the community again. And I think it's so great that you're able to like stay close and
Yeah.
have some sort of like foot still in it because I know for me, I haven't felt at all like I want to be around soccer yet. Hasn't
Yeah.
hit me yet. Because I just finished in November, so I'm kind of still in the in-between period where I'm like, not sad yet, but I know when soccer season comes right back around in August and I'm seeing posts and stuff, I'm gonna get sad. So yeah,
Yes, for sure.
I'm
That
not
was
looking forward to that.
that was always the hardest thing was like it didn't really hit me either until the next season came around and like I realized I'm missing out on everything. Like
I know, and you're seeing like posts of people like our coach having so much fun and it's kind of emotional.
yeah.
But more along the lines of athletic training, how has that really made you feel like not necessarily a part of the community because I know you just answered that question, but still really connected to sport? Or I'm trying to think of a way to word the question in another way. Um, how has it just impacted you?
Yeah. Um I think that's a good question. Just getting to like I don't know, having gone through so many injuries myself and then like getting to work with athletes who are going through injuries, it's really just I don't know. I feel like it's given me a level of empathy for like these athletes that I don't think I would have had otherwise, and I'm really thankful for that. And
Yeah.
even with having to go through all those injuries, like I think there is some good that came from it, and I'm able to help, my athletes when they're going through the same thing. And sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Like actually most of the time I feel like I don't know what I'm doing at work. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just here.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes like I may not know everything there is to know about how to treat an injury or how to do a rehab or whatever, but I could tell, like I feel like I do know a lot about what it is to be injured and
Mm-hmm.
hard that is mentally. And so I feel like that's been cool just to like, work with people who are kind of struggling and just getting to encourage them and lift them up and be like, look, I know it sucks and I know it feels like you're never going to get to where you need to go, but you will.
Yeah.
So,
That is some perspective. I've never thought of it that way. And I'm really glad you brought that up because I feel like I've never had a bad injury. So I don't know if I can really speak on this. But half of being injured is mental, if you
mm,
could say it, if you could think of it that way, because you really do have to like struggle every single day. Because I know you probably feel so alone. So it's
mm,
really, really nice that you can relate to athletes on that level and be able to be like, hey, listen, been there, like, let's get you through it too. So
mm,
that's super powerful. I love it. Um, my last final question is about the media and how it has affected you at all being a retired athlete. I know we've also discussed this previously and how like as teenagers, well, oh my gosh, we're not teenagers anymore. I always refer to myself, I don't even know how old I am. But as adults, young adults, on TikTok, on Instagram, we're able to see posts about your former athletes and we're able to like keep soccer or any sport close to us. So how has the media helped you in any way?
mm. That's a good question. I think it's just been helpful just to see that like, sometimes I like question myself. I'm like, it has been like 2 years since I stopped playing soccer. Why am I like sometimes I still get so sad about it, or else not so much anymore, but like there will be days or like something will happen, like watching a soccer game with my dad, and I'll realize like, oh my gosh, I missed.
Never. Yeah, you'll you won't be able to be out there.
And like today, I was literally just working the men's soccer. They had like a college recruit camp, and I was working it, and like I literally said to the coach, I was like, wow, this makes me really miss soccer. And so I don't know, just it's nice to see on social media that even though like you may not just be, months out from not having played, you could be years, and like there's still people out there that still struggle too with that, and
Mhm.
just not alone in how you feel. I think is encouraging, and like just kind of feel like there's a little bit of a sense of community among like athletes on social media who are like former retired athletes.
Yeah. I feel like I see that more and more too, and maybe it's just my phone knowing that I'm getting older and graduating. But I always see like dear former athletes, and they just go on to talk about their struggles, and they're literally the same things we struggle with because being a retired athlete is hard and no one prepares you for it. Nobody talks about how hard it's going to be. Um, I know something we mentioned too when you and me talked previously was just how we wish there could be a guidebook. Like we wish someone could just write something and be like, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, there's not.
I wish there was. That would be so nice.
I know, because I mean, I don't think they really tell you. Our coach was like, yep, go be an adult. And we're
Yeah.
like, that's all the advice that you have. So
Yeah.
I'm really, yeah, I'm really hoping that this series or just like this advice that we're getting can help any former athletes in any way because we're all struggling and we all have similar struggles.
Hmm.
Anyway, thank you so much, Gabby, for joining me tonight. This was my second episode of After the Play Ends, Hanging the Cleats Up, and I'll see you next Friday, guys.
Thanks, Anya.
Thanks, Gabby. Bye.